Good day, everyone. Now we will tackle Lesson 2 Techniques in Summarizing Texts. When a writer needs to make a summary, he or she must be willing to omit ideas and change the wording, but still keep the text's central contents. A summary is a shortened version of an original text, and there are several techniques for constructing a summary. So, why is summarizing a text a good idea after reading? How does it help you understand a text critically? How can simultaneously reading and taking notes make it easier for a reader to summarize the texts? Now, for the objectives, in this lesson, you should be able to do the following: identify various techniques in summarizing academic texts, and practice summarizing various texts using different techniques.
Summarizing a text. Summarizing a text means constructing a coherent, compressed paragraph about a certain topic or concept. It helps us with studying and is also considered to be a good writing practice. Summarizing a text has two aims: to reproduce the overarching ideas of a text in order to identify the general concepts, to express the overarching ideas of a text using precise and specific language. In summarizing a text, the reader must utilize language that is different and more precise. He or she must also think about restating the concepts in any way that the text is not expressed too generally. The most important point to remember in summarizing the text is to be aware of which details must be left in and which ones can be omitted. Consider the purpose of summarizing the text before deciding which details are to be kept. Sa pag-summarize sa text, magtudlo kini sa mga readers unsaon pag-ila sa mga importanteng idea sa text, unsaon nila pagdili pagtagad sa mga relevant informations, ug unsa pag-usa sa mga central ideas sa pinaka-meaningful na pamaagi. Once you read the text, you can now identify and include the title and author. Kung binisayaon pa nato, after nimo mabasa ang text, ma-identify nimo ang title o ang author na maapil nimo sa imuhang summary. Include the author's thesis statement in the first two sentences. Ang summarization magasugod sa unsa ang main concept sa text. So maong imong iapil ang thesis statement sa author sa first part or sa first two sentences sa summary. Write 1 or 2 sentences per main concept or idea in a text. Ang pag-explain sa isa ka main idea kay needed in order na masabtan ang thought without making the summary too wordy. If needed, divide the text into parts or by main ideas before summarizing the whole. Kung kinahanglanon daw nato, kailangan nimo i-by group ang mga words by main concepts or ideas before ka mag-summarize.
So next, remember to omit the details that are not important. There is no need to go into the minor and supporting details of the text. So, dapat straight to the point ka, like ang main idea na ang ibutang sa pag-summarize. Tas, no need na nimo dugangan og phrases or like supporting details nga makapataas hinoon sa summary. Tas, same thought ra pa jud siya sa previous phrase. Galibog-libog lang hinoon ta. So, if feeling nato na necessary na kayo ang details na imong iduwag unta, ayaw na lang jud og apila. Next, avoid writing additional opinions about the text. So, your summary will not be accurate if you have misunderstood the work. So, be careful not to let your own ideas get mixed up with those of the authors, no? So, kung magdugang-dugang pag-opinion nimo, medyo irrelevant na sad siya. Especially kung dili kay siya kuan sa text. And lastly, avoid plagiarism of the author's work. Include quotations if you are directly quoting the writer. So, we all know naman na plagiarism is no good. Sometimes, plagiarism involves deliberately stealing someone's work, but often it happens accidentally through carelessness or forgetfulness. So, in order to avoid plagiarism, you should paraphrase it, use quotations, and cite your sources para walay gubot. So that's all for the steps in summarizing texts.
So, this is example number 1. Eating breakfast helps you spread out your hunger and manage your food intake better throughout the day. If you start out the day by eating something, you don't get this burning hunger later that causes you to overeat. Summarize. Eating breakfast keeps you feeling full and prevents you from overeating. So, in this example, makita nimo nga, wa niya giapil ang mga informations nga minor lang. Remember nga, leave out the details that would make the summary longer than it essentially should be. Example number 2. The movement toward education by computer is developing fast. Massive open online courses called MOOCs are changing how people learn in many places. For years, people could receive study materials from colleges or universities and take part in online classes. But such classes were not designed for many thousands of students at one time, as MOOCs are. Summarize. According to a Voice of America article, a fast-growing MOOCs movement allows thousands to take online classes at once, changing how we learn. Similar to the first example, omit details that are not important, and when changing the language for the summarized text, you can use synonyms or even informal definitions to help you develop the skill.
Now, summarizing IMRAD and research. So, summarizing research usually occurs in the last chapter of a thesis or dissertation with a section titled Summary of the Study. So, in this particular section, the research statements of the problem, methodologies, results, and analysis are summarized before giving the conclusions and recommendations. So, the research abstract also includes an overview or summary. It contains the research questions, methods, and results as it is presented before the actual or other parts of a thesis or even a research article.
Example. It is normal for some students to be sleep deprived whenever the end of the semester is approaching or when there are a lot of tasks that should be done and passed the next day. There are also a lot of students, especially those who are in senior high school and college, who are unable to complete the recommended duration of sleep, which is 8 hours, because of the amount of workload that they need to finish. It is known that proper sleep helps students perform better in school, especially with complicated tasks such as solving mathematical equations, which lead to the research question. Does being sleep deprived affect the student's school performance negatively? This research will use qualitative and phenomenological methods. The researchers will gather data through a dyadic interview that involves 10 senior high school students as the respondents. There are ways to attain the recommended amount of sleep. The first way is through time management. This will help the students organize their schedules properly and be able to finish tasks at an earlier time with quality output. With this, students will not procrastinate on tasks, which leads to lack of sleep and poor quality of output. Second, students must learn to prioritize tasks that should be done first and skip the unnecessary ones. Lastly, students should be able to get used to sleeping at an earlier time. In conclusion, there are a lot of possible effects of sleep deprivation on students, such as bad performance in school and poor quality of outputs. Students should manage their time wisely for them to reap the fruits of their efforts in school. Although it will still depend on the performance of the students, these ways will help them obtain positive performance. This example is a research abstract. We all know naman jud na ang abstract is an outline or brief summary of your paper. So as we can see, sa kanina example, it contains the research question, which is, does being sleep deprived affect the student's school performance negatively? And its methods and results. Makita na ni siya no, sa last chapter sa thesis with the title Summary of the Study. Let's proceed to the last page. And this is our wrap up for today's lesson.
The aims of summarizing text are to reproduce the overarching ideas in order to identify the general concepts and to express the overarching ideas using precise and specific language. Have the author's thesis statement in the first sentence. Break down the text or research into the main ideas before summarizing the whole. Omit ideas that are not pertinent to the entirety of the text. And that's it. This is the end of our today's lesson. Thank you for listening, everyone, and any more questions?